This is going to be a very surface level explanation for the story of Armored Core 6. My perspective is that of somebody who is new to the entire Armored Core series, although apparently that doesn't matter too much because the other games are not connected to this one. Admittedly, when I first started playing the game, I cared nothing for the story. In fact, I didn't even think there was one to begin with, but I was dead wrong. This game has a narrative that actually creeps up on you, and it wasn't until closer to the end that I found myself quite invested and realized there is a lot going on here. In fact, I think there is almost 5.5 hours worth of lore that one could dive into. However, I wanted to create a video that was more bite-sized. And as somebody who enjoys From Software games, I figured Dark Souls as a giant robot could be fun. If I miss anything, please feel free to let me know. If you like story explained and psychoanalysis videos, consider blowing up that like and subscribe button because that is what this channel is all about. Our story begins with this meatbag you see here. This is you. You're an augmented human and you pilot this giant mechanical death machine called an Armored Core. We're given the name C4261 but are often referred to as Dog or Hound by many, including in the very beginning, where we are descending onto the planet Rubicon 3.
We're close to Rubicon. Wake the dog up.
Handler Walter verified.
Our handler, Walter, unleashes us onto the planet to find something called the Coral in order to make a killing and buy our life back. You see, Walter saved our life, and now we owe him. So, acting as his muscle, Walter sends us on our missions. And yet for now, as mercenaries, we illegally landed here on the planet, so Walter tells us to get a valid mercenary license ID. Finding one off of a merc who's gone missing, we take the callsign Raven. After becoming Raven, we defeat a Planetary Closure Administration helicopter, or a PCA helicopter, and then we get a little backstory as to what Coral is. Coral is a resource found on Rubicon. It is a living energy that can think, learn, and connect with people, like a giant brain made of tiny pieces. It has the power to control machines and change the world. This sentient energy is also a powerful fuel source used in things like armored cores and spaceships. Needless to say, the humans messed up the first time around, as is standard human race protocol, when they initially discovered and began using Coral. They caused what is known as the Fires of Ibis, a giant interplanetary firestorm that killed countless lives. Now, initially, it was thought that Coral was destroyed during this cataclysmic event, but it wasn't. So of course, the humans are back for more, bound to repeat the same mistakes. There are multiple factions all vying for Coral in order to gain control, money, and power, all with their own agendas. Naturally, there are giant corporations such as Balaam Industries and the Ibis Corporation. Then there's the Rubicon Liberation Front, or the RLF, a rebel faction that wants to protect their home and the Coral against the corporations who aim to exploit and desecrate their planet. There's the PCA, which originally was meant to enforce regulations on Rubicon after the Fires of Ibis. The PCA tries to contain the Coral to maintain order, but also, as any legitimate government does, exploits it for their military technology. And as mentioned, Walter is a mercenary handler who employs us, 621, aka Raven, to do the jobs that the different factions hire us for. Walter also has his own agenda on Rubicon, but we'll get to that later. Moving forward, Raven is hired by Ibis Corporation to eliminate the Strider, a colossal mobile mining base repurposed by the RLF to extract Coral and defend the Resistance efforts. The Strider blocks Ibis's Coral operations and must be destroyed. We disable one of its massive legs to scale the structure, destroy the sub-generators, and finally neutralize the Strider itself, causing it to collapse. This victory not only furthers Arquebus's dominance but also earns you the respect of Pater of the Vespers, paving your way for involvement in their elite operations while showcasing the brutal dynamics of the Coral War. Following the victory against the Strider, Arquebus hires us once again to destroy the forces of the RLF on the wall, a heavily fortified barrier separating Rubicon's outer regions from its resource-rich areas. At the top of this wall is the Juggernaut, who stressed me out, even with help from Rusty, another pilot working for Arquebus. With the Juggernaut's defeat, the operation is a success, furthering Arquebus's dominance once more and solidifying Raven's reputation as a key player in the escalating war over Coral. In the next mission, Walter sends us to attack a watchpoint, an abandoned PCA facility that once regulated the underground flow of Coral and now monitors dormant Coral veins. The mission, presented as a personal request from Walter's past connections, takes a dangerous turn when you encounter Sulla, an independent mercenary and first-gen augmented human who vehemently opposes our intrusion. I think now is a good time to explain augmented human pilots in Armored Core 6. Augmented humans are individuals enhanced through invasive surgeries and cybernetic modifications, allowing them to interface and pilot armored cores with superior precision, reflexes, and neural capability. This process has evolved across generations, each reflecting advancements in augmentation technology. Early generations, like the first, were experimental, with a less than 10% survival rate as seen with Sulla, who exhibits the harsh physical and mental toll of these procedures. Some later and more advanced generations, such as the 10th, represented by Pater, that elite Vesper pilot working with Arquebus, use advanced coral-based techniques to improve success rates and reduce side effects while preserving more of the pilot's humanity. Raven is a 4th-generation augmented human, representing a mid-stage in the development of augmentation technology. His enhancements include neural implants and physical upgrades, enabling him to control his armored core with extraordinary skill in high-stress environments. However, like other early generations, Raven's augmentation has side effects, such as mental instability and hallucinations, which play a crucial role in the story. After a tense battle, as we destroy the Watchpoint's sensor valve, a massive coral surge engulfs us, rendering Raven unconscious. At this moment, we encounter Ayre, a sentient coral entity who establishes contact with us, claiming to be a Rubiconian. Due to Raven's side effects of being a 4th-gen augmented human, he is able to connect with Ayre. Upon regaining consciousness, a PCA craft called the Baltius arrives, and after disposing of that machine, Ayre warns of a coming storm of flame linked to the coral surge, providing a foreboding premonition of another catastrophic event, like the fires of Ibis. In the following missions, Balaam Industries sends Raven to confirm Walter's intel about a massive coral convergence in the central ice field, requiring that we cross the Alaean Ocean using the intercontinental cargo launcher in Grid 086. However, we're going to be crossing through hostile territory. This area used to be controlled by a group called the Dozers, coral-addicted outlaws, but they turned into a black arms dealing group called Reuse and Development, or RAD. They were reformed, reorganized, and are currently led by Cinder Carla, a survivor of the fires of Ibis. After proving ourselves by defeating her smart cleaner, Carla becomes a reluctant ally, guiding us through Grid 086's defenses. But our path is blocked by the Sea Spider, a strong, coral-powered weapon from the defunct Rubicon Research Institute. The Institute was a pre-Fires of Ibis organization dedicated to advancing coral-based technology. Institute weapons are vastly superior to regular machines due to their integration of coral, which provides immense energy output, advanced adaptability, and self-sufficient autonomy. Defeating it secures our way to the ice field, and Ayre confirms Walter's speculations. that the Coral Convergence is indeed there. After completing some missions employed by the corporations to survey the fields for the coral, eventually the PCA finds us, and with their enforcement fleet laying down the law on mercenaries and corpos alike, it's time to temporarily put our foolish ambitions to rest. Only the corporations still have that dog in them, and as long as they have a hound in the fight, the PCA is going to have to do a lot more to stop us. So Raven embarks on a string of missions to distract and destabilize the PCA. We start by destroying a device deep in a tunnel, but accidentally cause a coral surge, resulting in an explosion that Raven barely escapes.
No repair kits remaining.
You made it, somehow.
Then, the RLF hires us to assassinate one of Arquebus's commanders, Swinburne, who we dispose of quickly. It was at this point that I found it extremely odd that these factions are okay with hiring Raven to constantly undermine one another. For example, one moment we're helping Arquebus, and the next we're helping RLF to hinder Arquebus, and this happens repeatedly throughout the game. Life of a merc, I guess. After destroying one of the PCA's energy refinement plans, 2 PCA operatives descend upon us to tag team Raven. After taking on the both of them, Walter assigns us a mission from a friend to investigate Xylem, a floating city in the ocean, abandoned after the fires of Ibis and built by the Rubicon Research Institute. Disabling the ECM fog generators shrouding the area allows Walter's friend to resume their survey and uncover potential clues about the Coral Convergence in the central ice field, while the corporations remain distracted by the PCA. That is, until the PCA shows up to stop us. However, after quickly defeating them, we move on to another PCA base to take out the forces there. But this is where I encounter my very first major roadblock, the PCA warrant officer. And he stressed me out, made me consider whether I should even finish this game or do this video. But after I switched up my build and learned the importance of staggering, I finally beat him. Later, Carla has us help her launch missiles at PCA forces and another group called the Coyotes who are helping the PCA. Carla doesn't appreciate their encroachment on her territory, so she blows them up. After attacking an old spaceport, 2 armored cores show up. With the help of Rusty, we destroy the PCA officers. However, before they are defeated, the captains say Code 78. The PCA acknowledges the code and summons a colossal mechanical worm, another Institute weapon commandeered by the PCA. Luckily for us, according to Ayre, the worm instinctively leaves to go protect the Coral Convergence. In the next mission, 621 is hired by Arquebus to defend a spaceport from a PCA fleet attempting to retake it. When we arrive, the battle is already over, with both the PCA attackers and Arquebus defenders annihilated. The destruction turns out to be the work of the original Raven, who came here specifically to test the skills of the one who stole his callsign. To the mercenaries, the callsign Raven represents independence and the freedom to choose for themselves, and he's here to see if we are worthy of carrying that mantle. Upon our eventual victory, we are validated as worthy, and our callsign Raven is cemented. After that battle, Carla tells us that a secret project was stolen by somebody named Honest Brute, so we quickly kill him before joining both corporations to tackle the ice worm. In this joint operation, using a stun needle launcher to take down the worm's shield, we pave the way for a railgun to decimate the ice worm. Together, the corporations and Raven manage to weaken the PCA further. However, Ayre expresses concerns about our coral destroying antics, stating that the coral are her brothers and sisters. After the PCA is devastated, Arquebus seizes control of much of the PCA's assets, tipping the balance of the corporate war in their favor. The RLF is demoralized, and the conflict between the corporations reignites. Raven, however, presses on, with Walter revealing his friend found a massive facility under the ice fields. The giant ice worm was protecting its entrance, and inside, we encounter a PCA AI enforcer that sounded weird to say out loud, tasked with protecting what lies beneath. After defeating it and going down, we dismantle a barrier by destroying a pressure chamber, defeat another Institute weapon, and meet the RLF commander to eliminate 2 elite Arquebus mercenaries. But we still need to push even deeper into the unknown depths, and it is there where Rusty, sent by Arquebus, tries to stop us. However, we overpower him, therefore forcing him to flee after losing an arm. And finally, after emerging from the tunnels, we come upon the vast Institute city. Ayre says that this is her home, and as we press on forward, we come to a lake. Walter says that we are here, and that Raven needs to investigate before Arquebus arrives. Suddenly, the coral begins to rise, and a special kind of weapon emerges and starts fighting us. Ayre explains that this weapon is not only powered by coral, but also controlled by it. Walter adds more context, stating that these types of weapons were engineered to prevent coral disasters, a security measure designed to protect Rubicon. We have our work cut out for us, and as the fight progresses, Ayre points out that the coral is beginning to resonate. When we finally do defeat the weapon, Ayre is solemn over the situation once again, but her thoughts are quickly cut off as Arquebus arrives. They stun us, shutting Raven down and begin seizing control of the coral. Arquebus takes over Institute City, discovering powerful weapons known as the Ibis series, technology that the Institute initially wanted to keep out of human hands. Arquebus also gains control of a giant coral siphon which they intend to repair and use in areas far beyond the planet of Rubicon. Raven awakens to a message from Walter, explaining that he had thought the coral was destroyed during the fires of Ibis, only to discover that it can gather, rebuild itself, and expand, spilling out of the planet and contaminating outer space. Walter's ultimate goal throughout this mission is then revealed. This whole time, he wanted to destroy the coral because he believes that this volatile resource will only bring pain and destruction. But we can't do anything quite yet because we are in a pickle. Arquebus had removed us from our armored core and thrown us into the sewers. This would have likely been the end of us, but somehow, Walter had foreseen that this would happen and prepared a junk armored core for us. With Ayre's guidance and Carla's help, we managed to escape. And again, I'm not entirely sure how Walter anticipated that this entire thing was going to happen and pan out exactly like that, or why Arquebus conveniently discarded us near the junk armored core, but I digress. Once back in our own armored core, Carla explains that she was part of a secret organization called the Observers, who monitored the coral and its growth. The Observers shared Walter's goals and were ready to destroy the coral if needed. Before continuing on to the next mission, Ayre opens up about her own motives. She doesn't want us to destroy the coral, as it contains the souls of the Rubiconians, those who perished in the fires of Ibis. According to Ayre, destroying the coral would essentially mean killing her own people again. Despite her plea, we keep it pushing, with our objective to burn the coral. We return to Xylem and defend the tower, allowing Carla to take control. After powering it up, we take to the skies. And during the battle, Arquebus sends in Freud, not Sigmund, one of those characters who lives for the glory of battle, but his fight is short-lived as we take care of him relatively quickly. We then obliterate the Arquebus interceptor fleet, which is using seized PCA suppression warships. As we fly back to Xylem, Rusty shows up for round 3 in a new armored core. Despite his upgraded machine, he fares no better this time, and after putting our old friend to rest, Carla begins to talk to us. But that's when a giant laser beam fires into the tower. It originated from a satellite station in space. Ayre is now controlling the station and is doing her part as a Rubiconian to try and stop us to protect the coral. And so, we ascend to the stars to confront Ayre, who has taken control of an Ibis series coral weapon. Her belief that humans and the coral can coexist drives her to fight us, determined to put an end to our mission. However, despite her efforts, we defeat her. With Ayre subdued, Carla drives the floating city like a sword into the coral siphon, igniting the coral and essentially nuking Rubicon. By the end of the Coral War, nobody won. Everyone on Rubicon perished and the planet was left a dead world. Everyone remembers the fires of Raven. And YouTube thinks that you're gonna like this video that you see on the screen here next, so click that video.